Alright, in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to do something like this. And that is tracking some green screen footage, tracking the camera with After Effects CS6, the new camera tracker that's built in, as well as how to build some sets using only Element 3D. So this beautiful thing and this nice little, animal print cube that she loves to sit on. So yeah, let's get into it. Now, I didn't shoot the green screen footage. I got it off this website called HollywoodCameraWork.us. They have a bunch of different green screen plates and stuff that you can use. This specific one is the walking sitting right here. So if you just click on the walking sitting right here, then it'll download it for you. So once you download the footage, you're going to bring it in, and you'll see it's an image sequence. So it's just a bunch of the frames in separate images. I think they are PNGs, yeah. So all you have to do to import this into After Effects is select the first one, or actually I think any of them really will do it. Just double click and it will bring in all the footage in one clip. And we're going to drag that down to the new comp button right here. And the aspect ratio is a little squished. So right click in your timeline and go to composition settings, and we're going to change the width. Uncheck the aspect ratio lock, and we're going to change the width to 1920. It's going to be 1920 by 1080, and lock it back just cause. And square pixels is okay. Let's go ahead and change this to 29.97 frames per second, and everything else should be good. Name this footage, raw footage. Like so, and click OK. Now click on the layer and press S to bring up the scaling options, and uncheck the link button here. And let's change this to like 150.1 for the width there. This first one's width, the second one is height. So I'll stretch it back out. And that's the prep that we have to do for the footage there. Now let's drag the raw footage composition up in the project window down to the new composition button to make another new composition. We're going to name this one final footage. Like that. Now we're going to be tracking this, but the lady is moving in the foreground, and that could mess up the tracking data. With the built-in After Effects plugin, you can't mask out certain objects to be discounted from the track, like you can with Camera Tracker. So in this specific situation where you have a green screen, you can kind of get away with masking her out and not have her affect the tracking data. So what we're going to do is make a basic mask. With the raw footage selected, we'll click on the pen tool and make just a basic mask around her. Like that. And now press M to bring up the mask options, and we'll go ahead and set this to none for right now, and set a keyframe for the mask path, and go down a little bit. Press V to bring up the controls to move the mask and stuff like that. So we'll just kind of follow her a little bit, adjusting things as we go. Doesn't have to be perfect, by the way. Just kind of make sure things look good. Let's get this out a little bit here. like this. Sorry, I spaced out there for a second. Alright, that, and then let's go to the end here, and we will adjust these more, like so. So just rough mask like that. Keeps everything in. Alright, that looks good. So what we're going to do now is take the mask and do add, so that it's going to cut out just this rough mask that we did, and we're going to go to the effects and presets, and we're going to go down to keying, which is right here, and key light, and we're going to throw this on the raw footage there. We're going to use the color picker to select the green here, like that. So it's going to take out all this stuff and pump it up a bit, like this. So now we have this basic mask and keying out, so she's by herself there. And what we're going to do now is click on the raw footage layer to have that selected, and go up to layer and auto trace. Actually, wait, first go back and click this button to make it so the mask is invisible, because it'll help in a second. Now go up to layer and select auto trace, and you're going to see it's going to select her like this. Make sure that work area is selected there, so it's going to do the entire work area, analyze it. And the settings that I have here are pretty good. We just kind of need to do like a rough trace of her. So we're going to press OK. And you're just going to see your mouse, maybe not on my recording, but the mouse is kind of like freaking out, going back and forth between loading and the pointer. There isn't really any visible thing showing you that it's doing anything. Like, it's not going through the frames and showing you it tracing it. But if you have your info panel up, you can see the raw, or the frames that it is doing right now. So it's going to finish the trace, and you'll see that we have this nice mask of the girl. She's all white now. That's it. Just white. Okay. So now that we have the auto trace, you can see that it's just this white mask. And what we're going to do is select the footage layer, and we are going to delete key light. And we're going to delete the mask as well. So we've just got this. Girl's covered in white. Now select the auto trace layer that was generated by the auto trace, and right click in the effects and controls, and we're going to go down to matte and select simple choker. And what this does is takes your mask and chokes it, so it'll make it smaller if you go into the positive numbers, but we're going to go into the negative numbers to actually expand it quite a bit. So it makes this like bubble around her. Go ahead and put that all the way up to negative 100 right there. So now you'll see we have this nice thing right there. Looks lovely. Let's actually, you can only take this to a negative 100, but if we duplicate the layer, it's going to make it bigger. So it's going to be negative 200 technically. So we're going to have it like that. That looks good. Now what we're going to do is select the raw footage and do the track matte. And again, if you don't have the track matte visible in modes, you can right click on the column up here. I think you can also press F4. Yeah. On the track matte, we're going to do inverted alpha matte, or alpha invert matte. So it's going to take her out there, and then we're going to create a new solid and select the green here like that, and take this to the bottom like so. So now we've kind of like masked her out with the green, and just to get rid of, there's kind of like some sharp edges here that the tracker could pick up, and we want to just reduce this as much as possible. So click on the auto trace layer and right click in the effects and control and go down to blur, or up to blur, and click on fast blur, and we're just going to blur this out real quick, a little bit like that. And let's do another choker, just make it bigger. There we go. So we have her essentially gone from the footage. Let's actually make this a little bit less, so it's not hidden on here. Now let's go back to our project window, and drop the final footage into another composition. And we're going to name this one main comp, like that. And we're going to right click the final footage within the main comp, and we're going to choose track camera. And again, this is only if you have CS6. So that's going to analyze, and you'll see this up here changes from the time to the frames that it's doing. So it gives you some sort of progress on what exactly it's analyzing and how long it's going to take. So now that that's done, you're going to see we have these little points throughout the footage, these right here, and you can actually make them larger if you change the size of the track point size. So you can see them a little bit better, like that. So when you drag your mouse through the different points, you can see they kind of like triangulate, and so you can kind of see like the surfaces and stuff, which is really nice. This doesn't happen with Camera Tracker by the Foundry, but it does with this, and it looks cool, and it can be very helpful. Now what we're going to do is select one of the points by the chair, and we're going to right click it and create null and camera, like that. So this is going to create a camera that already has all the keyframes and stuff and moves just like the actual physical camera that you shot with, which is very helpful. So we've made a null there, which you can see a little dot right there. And what we want to do is name this center. And then we're going to select a couple other ones that are on the floor plane by going back to the footage and selecting Camera Tracker. And let's do this one. Create null, and this one over here. Create null. That's probably good enough. So now, once we've created all those things, you don't need to name the other two unless you want to. I mean, you can name it Bob and Ted and, you know, whatever you want to do. It's your project. What we need to do is select all of our null objects and the camera. So if you select the first null object and hold down Shift and click all the way to the camera, it'll select everything. With all of these nulls selected, go to the top view, like this. And you can see that our camera's right here, and our nulls and stuff are spread out throughout here. So it's making our composition really, really large. And that is no bueno. In order to get this so it's not so large, and you'll see if you zoom back in here to the composition and you press the apostrophe key to bring up the tile safe, this little plus mark here is the center of the composition. So top view, that's the center, and you can see we're way off center. It's craziness. So what we need to do is create another new null object just in the composition and make it 3D and select all of the null objects except for this new one that we've made and the camera, and parent them with the pick whip to this new null object. And if you click on the scale, or click S on the new null object to bring up the scale, and if you bring this down, you'll see that everything is shrinking proportionally to each other, which is good. So we're going to shrink this down a lot, like about this much. Alright, and now if we move this null object, we can kind of move our whole scene around without affecting where the things are placed on the footage. It's all proportionate to each other. Click on the center null just so you can see where it is out of the three, and click on the new null and just try to get that center mark right in the center of the composition here. Just roughly, that's good. Now, what we also need to do is go to our front view, like this, and click on the center one again, just so we make sure we know which one it is. It's this one. Click on the new null object and bring that center point up to the center. And if you press Control R, it's going to bring up the rulers, and you can actually drag a line down. So we'll kind of get that roughly aligned with the center here. Now you can see our floor plane, which is these other null objects that we've done, aren't exactly level. And so what we need to do there is rotate, play with the rotation on this new null object by clicking R, and we can do X rotation. So you see the further down we go, the more lined up they kind of get. So just keep messing with that till you get lined up, roughly, probably about that. And take the null object up again, like that. And now we need to mess with the Z, like this, roughly. Alright, so that's pretty close. Let's see if the Y will do anything. Just keep messing with stuff till you get it just right. I should do a cooking show, shouldn't I? Just add the salt and the pepper and... Probably not. And let's even do -11. Let's see what this does. Okay, so let's do -10.1. Almost perfect. That's good enough. I'm happy with that. So you can see our nulls. Actually, if you click on all the nulls and press on this S to bring up the scale, we can change the size of these so they're a little bit easier to see. Alright, now when we go back into our active camera, you'll see that all of the null objects are still in the same place. So our center one still right there, right in the corner there. Everything still moves the same. And we can actually delete this null object that we made to do all the adjustments. Alright, and now let's get our lady back in there. Let's go into our final footage and select the raw footage layer and switch the alpha matte inverted to just normal alpha matte, so we just see the lady there. And let's delete this green. And there we go. Well, that's gonna be in the way. Let's make the matte a little bit tighter so we don't see this wood beam here, because that could be an issue in the future. Let's take the feathering down a little bit right there. So let's delete these two chokers to bring it down a little bit more, and take the blur out. You can go ahead and just delete the blur completely. Fast blur. So now, when we go back into our main composition, see the girl's there, and all the tracking data is still there. Create a new solid, and color is kind of irrelevant, but let's do this nice pretty blue. That's such a pretty blue color. I like that color, pretty blue. And we're gonna name it element. And click OK. Now we're going to apply element 3D onto this layer. Let's create a new solid here again. Color again, kind of irrelevant. Let's make it just slightly different. And we're gonna name this circle. If I could spell, that was awful. Circle. Click OK, and we're going to put a circular mask on this. To select the circular mask, hold down Alt and keep clicking the mask button. It'll show you all these different shapes. To get the circle one, and if you start making your circle and hold down Control and Shift, it'll expand it and contract it by the center point of the shape. So make a circle, size doesn't matter too much, and we're going to make this invisible and go to Element and go to Custom Layers, Custom Text and Masks, and for the first path choose Circle. We're going to go into the scene setup and we're going to click Extrude, and so there we have this nice little disk or wafer, some sort of cookie, possibly, maybe, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to go into the bevel and take this down a bit like this. And we're also going to show the grid so you can see where the center axis is and kind of what the shape's position is like. Click back on the main level of the object, and let's change the path resolution to ultra, and transform, we need to change the X to 90 like that, so it's laying flat on the grid. And so this is X, Y, and Z. You can look down here and see that. And so yeah, there we have the little thing there. Let's go ahead and choose a nice texture. If you go to the Pro Shaders and Concrete and, I don't know, just throw one of these on there. How's that look? That looks pretty concrete-y. And click OK. And let's put our final footage above the element layer. You see, we just put in this 3D object, and since we kind of like calibrated our scene with the way things were tracked and stuff like that, its default position is going to be kind of where we want it, which is good. So now we can scale this up a bit by clicking on the element layer and clicking on group 1 particle look, and we can scale it up a bit like this. Let's make it a little bit larger like so, and let's switch over to our front view. Alright, so if this plus mark is our center of our composition, and we kind of lined the floor level up with the plus sign here, let me take the element off. So you can see this is kind of like our floor, essentially, the horizontal mark on the plus. So we want to move the top of our floor here to that same position. Like, that's good, like right there. Let's go back to our main camera. And so you want things to be lined up as closely as possible, because when she's walking and things aren't aligned, it'll look, the floor will slightly move underneath her, and it just isn't going to make sense in your mind when you're watching it. Even if you don't directly notice it, it's just kind of like a subconscious thing that really will affect the realism of your shot. And I mean, mine looks so terribly real. I mean, look at those trees. Those are real looking trees. It's amazing. Alright. Pizza just came to my house, like a pizza guy. So that's more important right now to me than this. So I'm gonna go eat pizza real quick, and then I'll be back to show you how to make this look somewhat realistic, like mine didn't look at all, and to color correct her and stuff like that with keying and all that jazz. So you enjoy your pizza, and I will enjoy my pizza. That was some good pizza. Okay. Let's get into keying her out and color correcting her and building the set more. Alright, so in messing around with this footage, I have found that the markers on the green screen that are also green, they're a different green so you can see them for the tracking, but they're also not keying out properly. So we're going to want to try to get them as close to the same green as possible. So let's go back into our final footage comp, and if we zoom in, you might be able to see it on this, I'm not sure, on my screen recording, but there's a triangle here that is kind of like a more yellow green than this green. So what we want to do to combat that is click on the raw footage layer and go to our effects controls and right click and go to color correction and change to color, or change color, sorry, not change to color. Change color, and let's select it right here. And we're going to try, it's kind of difficult to see, you can mess around with it, but we're going to change it a little bit. so that it matches a little better. And you want to change your matching tolerance down pretty low so that it doesn't change her color. And just kind of get it close to the other existing green. Change the lightness a little bit too, maybe. There, that's gonna be better. All right, so that is gonna help tremendously in the near future. So now let's go back to our main composition, and with the final footage layer selected, let's go to keying and key light, and we're gonna select the D bias, or the D spill bias and the alpha bias, sorry. And so what this does is you can see her white coat kind of has some green, the light is reflecting off the green background and onto her white jacket, which is making her jacket a little bit green. So we want to select that color and just keep the lock bias together. So these will be the same color. So essentially what this is going to do is going to take this color, use a color picker and select some of the whitish green on her jacket. It's going to exclude or discount some of this color from being taken out of the key. Now let's do screen color, select that, and select one of the greenish colors in the background here. And I don't do too much green screen stuff, so I don't really know that much about it. But from what I found is leaving the screen gain and balance where they are kind of helps out a lot. And if we go into the screen matte and change some of these settings, it works out a lot better. So we're going to change the clip black to be a little bit more. Keep doing that up until we get rid of all that extra stuff around the edges there. And we're starting to lose some of her leg. Where it gets dark, it kind of like starts becoming transparent. So if we take the clip white down, it's going to bring more of that detail back in. All right. And let's go to where she's sitting down on the chair. And you can see the chair is still here, some of the shadow on there. So we're going to want to do the clip black up a little bit more to cut some of that out. Probably bring the white back down. Wow, no, now her heels disappear. You gotta kind of like pick and choose what you want to take out, what you want to leave. So just adjust these a little bit. It's probably fine. We could always mask this out later. We don't want to lose too much of our subject with keying her out more. Yeah, let's go ahead and add the heels back in because they are a bit important. You just kind of gotta mess with stuff and balance things. Alright, so that's okay. Now we want to shrink/grow the mask, -1 maybe. Let's try that out. Alright, and we're going to do screen softness. Do that to +1. That looks fine-ish. It's okay, maybe take this -0.5 for the shrink/grow. Okay, now we have a decent key, so she's keyed out, but she still looks really green, and that doesn't look good, or even close to being right. So key light does have spill suppression built in, which is under the foreground color correction, but in messing around with this specific clip, I found that it didn't work too well. So it kind of made things splotchy and didn't look right. So what we are going to do is go to the keying and spill suppressor, and let's turn key light off for a second and select the same green that we keyed out, and now turn key light back on, and you're gonna see it takes out a lot of the green that spilled onto her. So she's looking a little bit better now. There's still a little bit of green in there, but let's correct that with another effect. If you go to color correction and gamma/pedestal/gain, and under the green pedestal, we're going to change this to -0.05. Like this, so it's going to take out a little bit more of the green, And we're also going to add a curves adjustment under color correction, curves. And we're going to take this up a little bit just to brighten her up. That should look good. And go ahead and go to the alpha. And you can mess with the alpha a little bit to bring in more of the edges or take out stuff and just kind of mess around with it a little bit. All right, so now she is keyed out pretty well. Walking on our little set here. So now let's continue building the set. To make the columns, we're going to use the same circle that we used for the base. And we're going to duplicate that and turn it back on so it's visible. And we're going to press Ctrl-Shift-C and to pre-compose it. And we're going to move all attributes into the new composition. And let's change this name to column and click OK. Okay, now that we've pre-composed that, we're going to go to the effects controls, right click, and go to stylize and roughen edges, which is right here. And we're going to bring up the border a lot, probably to about, let's do 100, just to be crazy. And we're going to sharpen the edges a bit, take that to like 3. And we're also going to take down the fractal influence so that things like this don't happen. So it's just the edges are rough and there aren't any like crazy things coming out. So right about here. That's good. And now we are going to go to layer and auto trace again and make sure your current frame is selected. And don't have the blur. Turn the blur off. Put the tolerance to about 5. Or let's see what 10 does. It's too smooth. Yeah, 10's too smooth. Let's do 6. Alright, you don't want this too high because it's going to create more points in the mask, and that will make element run slower when it's rendering the path or the object based on the path. Click OK, and now we are going to delete the columns pre-comp and change the name of this auto trace to column. All right, we're going to go into element and under the custom text and masks, which is under custom layers. For the second path, we're going to choose column, and we're going to go back into our scene setup, and we're going to click extrude again to extrude. And it's going to extrude the same circle path that we used before. So what we need to do is with the main level of the object selected, choose custom path 2. And that's going to give us our rough path here. You can see the edges are roughened up and it looks good. It's starting to look like a column, which is what we want. Change the path resolution to ultra. And if that makes element run too slow, then you can always, make it less or whatever. It's not too important. But now we're going to go to the bevel and turn the extrude like way up. Like, let's do 50 just to be crazy. That is really crazy. Okay, and now we're going to click on show grid. So you can see that it's laying down. It's more like a log than a column. So that's not good. So we're going to click on the main level of the object again and go down to transform and change the orientation for the x-axis to 90 so it flips it standing upright. And we want the center point of the object, of the model, its anchor point essentially, to be at the bottom. Now you would think you could select anchor point and choose bottom, but that's not going to change it because that's going based on like the path. So the path is actually just right here, so it's not going to work. So change this back to model center, and we're going to offset the Z down a little bit here. And if you hold down your middle mouse button, you can move left and right, up and down the mouse wheel. You can go in and out in Z space. Left clicking controls the rotation, so we're going to try to just get this so it's a flat line and keep adjusting this. here till we get it close. Something about that is good. All right, and we're gonna throw on the same concrete texture onto this. And let's change this model to be in group 2. So hold down Alt and press 2, so it'll take it out of the group 1 also. Click OK. If you don't have the latest version of Element 1.6, you should definitely get it because it adds a lot of features which we're going to be using in this, so it's very important. The feature right now that we're going to use is the create group null. So if we go to group 2 and go down to group null create, it's going to create this new null object. Let's change this to column control like that. And so this is going to let us control our column. One flaw I think in Element is that it doesn't show you your X, Y, and Z like references, unless there's a way to show it that I just don't know. Let's see. No. So when I was twisting things around, I got it mixed up. So this is actually the top of the model that I've done it to. So to correct that, we'll just take away this negative sign. And there, now it's on the bottom. And we'll click OK to go back in here. We're going to parent the column null object to the center null object that we created when we were doing the tracking. And once we've parented it to that, we're going to press P on the column layer and zero out all of these values, the X, Y, and Z values. And so that's going to put it right in the center of the composition, right in the floor. Now go back into Element. In group 2, go to Particle Replicator. And let's change this to like 5 columns. So it's going to show us 5 columns once we change the Particle Replicator shape to ring. So now we have our 5 columns there, and we can change the scale shape so that it makes them go further apart from each other, like this. And now you'll see when we go through, they move with the camera and everything like that. Now, in our column control, if you press R to bring up the rotation, and if we rotate in the Y-axis, we can spin the columns around. So let's have this column right here so you can still see her, but then it's going to pass close to the camera, and then she'll still be visible. So that's how we're going to have that. Now, let's also create something for her to sit on. Let's go back into Element and Scene Setup, and let's go into our primitives and choose Box. And let's grab a fabric. Let's do this one. Yeah, it's going to be a line box this time. Nice. She's got some style, some serious style. So this one, if we click on the main layer, the main level of our object, we can do model center should be bottom, and that will adjust it like that. Now change this to be group 3 by pressing Alt and number 3, clicking OK. And now if we go into group 3, that is really large. It's too large of a seat. Now we're going to go into group 3 and create a null object. Create, and we'll name this null object seat. And we'll parent this to the center. Press Control A and U to collapse all the layers. Now parent the seat to center. And press P and zero out the X, Y, and Z values for the position. And we can also press S for the scale to scale this down tremendously. And we're just gonna rotate the Y a little bit and position the seat so it looks like she's sitting on it. Let's see how that looks. Looks a little too big still. Let's scale it down a little bit more. And some of the problem with this particular footage, which if you're shooting green screen stuff and you have a place for them to sit, you have to take into account. The stool that she was sitting on in the original footage it's not an actual box, so her feet actually go kind of like inside the box area, which is problematic. So just be careful with what you're shooting and how you're shooting and the stuff that you're using to shoot with, because this right here, her feet are going into the box area, and we can try to correct that a little bit, but then she looks like she's going off, sitting on the corner of the thing, and it doesn't look great. And that wasn't even much of a sentence that I just said. All right, and the last set thing that we're going to do is add the ceiling. So if you go into scene setup and go to the floor layer, which is the first one that we made, and we're going to add this to group 4 in addition to group 1. Now copy group 1. If you go to the group utilities and copy and paste, copy that, and go to group 4 and paste. It'll match the floor. Create a group null for the ceiling or top. Let's go back to the beginning when she's standing up right here. Now we can bring the ceiling up right there, maybe a little bit higher. Still seems a little bit too low. There we go. We'll do it right there. So now once you have element set up completely, what you want to do is duplicate it. And we're going to rename this to element mask. Like that. And we're going to put this layer above the final footage. And we're going to go down to the output and change it from composite to world position. And this is in version 1.6, which is important that you have. And so this is going to create a mask for us essentially. And once you show world position, then it's going to bring up these options, and we can mess with the Z. So you can change your mask to have different parts that it uses. So let's set it like right here. So this first column is going to be blocking her. Now when we click on our final footage, we can change the track mat to Luma inverted, and she will go behind the column when she walks behind it. Like that. So that looks good. All right, and now let's add some depth of field. With our camera, if you select the camera, press A twice, and turn the depth of field on. So since the camera is actually moving, we want to keep her in focus because she's staying in focus in the actual footage. And she's not in 3D space, which is important to note. She's not in actual 3D space. Well, I mean, she is in actual 3D space, but not in the composition's 3D space. So this will be blurred out and she won't be, and it'll look weird. So what we can do to fix that is we can create a new null object, and we'll name this focus, or follow focus. Yeah, let's do that. Follow focus, and press P to reveal its position. Also make sure it's a 3D object by clicking this 3D object thing, pressing P, and we're going to also, with the camera with these settings shown, press Shift and P also, which is going to bring up the position. And for the focus distance, we're going to press Alt and click on the stopwatch to bring up an expression. And we're going to type in length, open parentheses, close parentheses, and then go back into the parentheses and pick whip. Oh, crap. Make sure you can see your follow focus layer. Let's hide this one. All right, and in the parentheses, you're going to pick whip to position, and then a comma, and you're going to pick whip to the camera position also. Now, the focus is going to be wherever this null object is. And since the null object is in the center of the composition, it's going to always be staying there unless you keyframed it or whatever. The camera's focus is going to constantly be shifting so that this box in this area is in constant focus. So if we take our aperture, set it to like 100 to really blur things out. And an important thing to note when compositing this stuff is her foot is in focus, but the focus is going out on the floor here. So what we need to do for that is maybe take the aperture down a little bit to like 80. See if that opens it up more. Maybe 50. Maybe 30. Okay, so that's in more focus, but we still want things like this to be blurred out. So let's take the blur level up to like 200 maybe. Crushes it a little bit more. 300. All right, and her foot is just barely out of the focus. I'm not going to worry too much about it. But if you want to, by all means, go ahead. So that gives us some depth of field. And you'll see that this front pillar, once my adaptive resolution catches up, is going to be out of focus. And so it'll be a nice creative shot with the column going past. Okay, now for the background, or like the forest. So you go to cgtextures.com. You want to go to landscapes and then various. And you really want a landscape that you can see the ground. It's pretty important. Let's do, how's this one look? This one will work right here. Let's download this and bring it into After Effects like this. Then put it in your scene behind all of the other layers, and go to your widest shot, your widest part of the shot, and we're going to parent this to the center again, right here, and click on, press P. Make this 3D layer also, sorry. Press P and zero out all of these settings. And we're going to take this up a little bit and change the Z so you push it back really far. So there's some parallaxing happening. And change the scale. Up a little bit. You could even apply this to like a cylindrical shape if you wanted to. But we're just going to do this. Just for the heck of it. All right, and let's scale it up more. And just kind of check the parallaxing. This looks amazing, by the way. I'm really kidding, it doesn't look that good. Okay, so we got the background in there. You can mess with that more to make it look more realistic. But you also want to change the curves. So let's, with that layer selected, do new curves adjustment. Like this, and make it a little bit brighter. Like that. And then we also want to add, kind of last thing, is add a light in here. So new light, and we're going to do a point light. And let's select kind of like one of the brightest colors from the background here, like this, and we're going to parent this to the center also, and change position 0, 0, 0. All right, and we are going to move this up to the top right here, but we're also going to duplicate this light, and now this one is going to be an ambient light, and we'll turn this down the intensity to like 50-ish or so. Press OK and turn the intensity of this down a bit. Let's try 100. Maybe a little bit more. And click AA on the background layer, and we can control kind of how it accepts some of the light. Let's make the background not accept lights. Accept lights off. So that's going to stay bright. So you can mess around with the different brightnesses and stuff and different lights and add different lighting to make it look more realistic. But that's pretty much it, and that's how you can create a little crappy scene inside Element without using any other 3D programs. And if you work hard and be creative enough, you can actually figure out something decent. I mean, this isn't amazing, but I didn't have to use any 3D programs, so I'm gonna say it's a win. And there's this cool, tiger seat, so everybody wins. I mean, especially her, because that is an awesome tiger seat. And that's pretty much gonna wrap up the tutorial. If you enjoyed it or hated it, you can feel free to subscribe to my videos, and I'll be doing more tutorials. And if you have any suggestions for a tutorial, then hit me up with a comment or a message or whatever, and like me on Twitter, or like this post, like this video on YouTube, because they have that liking thing. And you can dislike if you want, but I would prefer if you didn't. Again, that's up to you. And follow me on Twitter, and I guess you could friend me on Facebook, but that might be kind of weird. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. You decide what you want to do, and definitely check out some of my other stuff. Gracias. Okay, I'm gonna go now.